So I am Debbie Walsh from the Center for American Women in Politics, and I'm delighted to be here, and I want to thank Nancy and Kay, and we've been working hard to kind of put this section together, and I want to also thank my colleague Kelly Dittmar, who's a research faculty at the Center for American Women in Politics. And we have a long actual history with Circle. Circle funded some work we did many years ago looking at gender and civic engagement and civic participation, particularly among young women. So it's kind of fun to be back with Circle, but in a different way. So this is kind of a new thing for us to do a short take. We haven't done something like this. And what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is kind of go through some of what we know about women in politics after studying it for 40 plus years at the center, and a little bit about where we're going and looking at. So one of the things that we have found over time is that there's a bit of a myth out there about where women are when it comes to their role in politics. There are a number of kind of marquee names out there. Did I do this right? There we go. So these are some of the women that we see in the headlines. Some of them we actually know by just their first names, you know, Nancy, Hillary, Condi. And these are the women that are on the front page of the newspaper, oftentimes above the fold. And I think it gives us a sense that maybe there are women everywhere. We got plenty of them. We've taken care of that whole issue of gender equity. But the reality is starkly different. This is a picture of the 2013 freshman class in Congress. And when you look at that, you see sort of a row of women in the front and then a lot of dark suits behind. And I want you to know that this class, this freshman class, is the second largest class of women in the history of Congress. This is the swearing in. And I'm afraid to tell you that some of the women who are there are daughters and wives, not actual members. The reality, the numbers of women who serve in office, we're talking 18% in Congress, 20% in the Senate, which is a record. These are records, but still far, far from equity. The state legislative level, about 24%. And of all the governors in the United States, only 5 women. And that's actually a place where we are down from. We are not just missing faces in pictures. We are missing voices. We are missing perspectives and experiences. We are missing energy and talent and smarts. And we pay a price when we don't have more women in office. We are losing expertise and talent that we so desperately need these days, and certainly when you look at the way government is working. In the early days, even when we had only a few women, we found that women made a difference. So the fact that I did not ever play sports in high school or in college, but that my daughters did, is because of a woman who was serving in Congress, Patsy Mink, and Title IX. That's the difference that a woman made in all of our lives. The fact that every woman in this room who goes to apply for a credit card or a loan or a mortgage doesn't have to ask her husband or her father or her brother to co-sign for that loan is because of a woman who served in Congress, Bella Abzug, who led the fight for equal credit. These are the differences that women have made, and we pay a price when women aren't there. I don't know, many of you may remember this scene back in 1991 when you had an all-male, all-white Senate Judiciary Committee grilling a young African-American attorney who was testifying about an issue that so many women had experienced, sexual harassment in the workplace, but they didn't get it. And there were no women there to get it. And when the women in the House marched over to the U.S. Senate to say something about it, the doors were shut and they were turned away. Now, if you fast forward to 2013, this is the picture that you see. So this is the Senate Armed Services Committee, 27% now of the members of the Armed Services Committee is female. And because there are women there, because there are women who are willing to work across the aisle, like Senator Kelly Ayotte and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, they are raising the issue of sexual harassment and sexual assault in the military, an issue that has been in existence for a very long time, but is finally getting dealt with in a very different kind of way. And the tables are a bit turned. So the panel that is coming to testify is almost exclusively male, and they are facing women who are serving in the United States Senate. So it makes a difference when those women are there. But this invisibility that I've been talking about isn't just in the pictures that we see, it's in the images that our children see, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's on television, whether it's in the media, in movies, on the internet. They don't see women in leadership. Women are rendered invisible in leadership. And we pay a price for that kind of invisibility. The Gina Davis Institute has done a study looking at G-rated films, kind of a content analysis of G-rated films, and they found that in those films, women, 0% of public elected leaders are women. So women are just not there. They see men in those roles, but they don't see women. And that's not just our girls seeing that, that's our boys seeing that. We know that what happens is when you have the textbook that has a little pink box, and that's the place where the information about women's history is. We teach girls and young women in our programs at Rutgers, and they come to college not knowing who Shirley Chisholm is. They come to college not knowing who Susan B. Anthony is. They come to college not knowing who Alice Paul is. Our history, women's history, and women's political history is invisible. We get a month, right? We get March. And once March is over, we're done. So that invisibility has a price as well. And the price that we pay for that invisibility is that the images that we are teaching and the images that we are showing of leadership are only showing male leadership. And so our boys and girls grow up thinking that public leaders only look like their fathers or their grandfathers. And it masks that reality that there are some women out there, and it keeps them from dreaming the dream of being president of the United States one day, right? Every little boy grows up to dream to be president. That is not the dream that little girls have, and we see it disappearing for them. We are trying to do something to change that, to change what those images of public leadership are, not just for our girls, but for our boys. And one of the things that we are doing is something called Teach a Girl to Lead, which is a national effort to make women's leadership visible and to change the way in the classroom and with youth-serving organizations when politics, history, and public leadership are being taught and activities are being developed for kids, that women's leadership is in fact visible. And we want to give teachers and youth group organization leaders the tools that they need to bring women's history and women's participation to young people. But we know that the whole issue of role models is just absolutely critical. So one of the key components to the work that we're doing is trying to mobilize elected women officials across the country to become part of a cadre of women who will go out and talk in classrooms and to Girl Scout troops and girls clubs and boys clubs and make sure that they are the actual role models that young people are seeing so that they can change their image, because we know that you can't be what you can't see. That's what Marian Wright Edelman said, and it's absolutely true. Madeleine Albright tells the great story of how she, as a young woman, never dreamed of becoming a Secretary of State, and it's not because she lacked ambition, it's because she never saw a Secretary of State in a skirt. So we want to make sure that we put those role models out there so that kids see a different image of leadership, and we change that image of leadership for them. We know that we also have a responsibility at the center to spark, if we can, a national conversation about gender, politics, and the teaching of public leadership, and how we can make sure that we bring along a new generation and inspire a new generation so that we change some of those numbers that I was talking about at the beginning. I know from my own personal experience that this can work, and that it really can make a difference to see these role models. When I was 12 years old, I grew up in New York City, and I was very lucky. I had parents who were very politically engaged and very politically active, but my mother was an activist on the outside. And I saw her marching, whether it was to ban the bomb or to end the war in Vietnam or for civil rights. But I never imagined her as an elected official. And then when I was 12 years old, we went to my elementary school, and there was a debate between two congressional candidates in my district. One was a conservative radio talk show host named Barry Farber, and one was a woman named Bella Abzug, who was running for Congress for the very first time. And I had this eye-opening moment of, oh my God, a woman could actually be the candidate. You don't have to always be on the outside trying to make change. You don't have to only do service on the outside. You could be that voice on the inside. And just from that experience, it started me on the path to thinking about women and politics and the potential of political leadership and the power that that could have. And it has really guided me for all these years as I have charted my career working in government and politics and higher ed and trying to do the work that I do to inspire more women to be engaged in the political process. So it is our responsibility to make sure that those role models are out there, and that's the work that we are doing at the center. Thank you very much.